Hi, everybody. It's Coral. I know it's been a little bit of time since we did Grit and Grins, but I am so excited because I have somebody here today. I just recently met her, but I was introduced to her by another friend of mine who's an artist. I'm going to be talking to Jan today, Jan Stitt, and she has a history with painting that started from the time she was a little girl. She worked at the university. She now is a full-time artist and just has a lot of fun things to share with us. But this painting, there it is back there. Ta-da! This painting was done by another friend of mine, Karen Austin. And Karen did this painting of my kids when we first moved to Alaska. And she's the one that suggested that I reach out to Jan. And we're going to call Karen out right now because she said she's too shy she just doesn't want to talk on camera. So maybe one of these days we'll get to talk to Karen.
She'll do
but
it.
Jan's going to help me, kind of guilt her into it. But Jan I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself, but she has a studio. The name of her studio is Alaska Raven Studio. And I'm going to have a link to that down below so you guys can click on that and see her paintings and see what she's all about. But I'm going to let her talk to you a little bit about her journey up here to Alaska. She started in St. Louis, and then she moved to Alaska. Then she moved back to the lower 48. Then she moved back up to Alaska. And it just was pulling you home, right?
That's right. I fell in love with the place. That's the danger. When you come up here to live, be careful. You're going to fall in love with it.
We're all danger oriented. So if you're not a little bit on the cuckoo side, you probably shouldn't live here. But to tell you how weird it is, both of us, Jan and I, she wrote in her little bio she sent me that she absolutely loves it when it's super crazy cold. And we're talking 30 below, 40 below, 50 below. But I get a ton of stuff done. I love it. It's almost like kinetic, isn't it?
Yeah. It makes your house cozy. It just makes you're just very glad to be alive. And it just makes you very aware of the place that we live in. It's
right. Yeah.
Great.
And the light's eerie. I mean, those of you I mentioned to several people, they always say, what's a good time to come visit Alaska? And I always say, if you want to see the aurora, come in January, but it's not for the faint-hearted.
First trip, maybe the second trip. The first
yeah. So I'm going to let Jan tell you a little bit about her journey, how she got up here, about what, how she got into art. She's got an awesome story about at a museum with her brother. So I'm going to let you go. So tell us all about just you and being an artist and what you love.
Okay. Well, I came here from St. Louis, and I told you a little bit about that. I had three older brothers, and they were much older than me, and they ran off to college, and I'm just still in kindergarten. And they became professors and a doctor, but I was in love with art. I was interested. I always wanted to be an artist, and my parents were supportive. And my father actually gave me the belief that I could do anything, which I realize now was an amazing gift. When one of my brothers came home from his studies, he decided, I needed to see some culture. So he took me to see an exhibit of Van Gogh's paintings. Vincent Van Gogh exhibit had come from Europe to the St. Louis Art Museum. And I was drawing by this time and interested in art and, studying artists and everything from library books. But I remember walking into this gallery, and I was a very young girl, and just being wowed by the colors and the brush strokes. And it made quite an impression on me. I can see the paintings on the walls, the first one, and when you turn the corner, and then there was that one. And it was just really a big moment in my life. And so I went on to study art on my own and learn more, and had the opportunity to come to Alaska. My husband and I were going to come up for a year. And I remember getting off the plane and realized this place is very different from St. Louis, and it just intrigued me. I was intrigued. We ended up staying for 4 years. This was before the pipeline even started, and I just really got to know Alaska, but things changed so much during the pipeline, and we got a little disillusioned. It just wasn't the same as when we arrived, and so we thought we should leave. And I wanted to go to art school. I forgot to tell you about my time with Bill Barry here at the university. I had a job at the university here at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and I learned about the painter William Barry, and he was teaching evening classes, so I could work during the day and take these evening classes. And I ended up taking every class he taught. He taught a figure drawing, and then once you took the figure drawing class, you were allowed to take the animal drawing classes. And he would bring in animals. He would bring in dogs and cats, as you can imagine, but he would bring in goats and rats and mice and gerbils, and we even had a llama in there. It was so much fun. And then we'd all sit down around the animal and we'd sketch in our sketchbook, or try to sketch. And then he would come around and sit down with each one of us, take our sketchbook, and next to our drawing, he would do a similar drawing from the same angle of the skeleton and what the animal looked like, and then what the muscles would do. And he'd describe it to me. He'd draw the muscles on top, and then he'd draw the fur and the patterns. And it was an amazing learning experience. And he'd go around to each person all evening and do that with every single animal. And so we end up with our sketchbooks being treasures of, with his drawings. It's very special.
I don't, some of the people that are watching this are obviously from Fairbanks, or they're from Alaska. Some of you are from the lower 48 or other places, but Bill Barry has this amazing mural in our library, and he was very whimsical in many of his drawings. And there's this drawing, and there's moose dancing and bears dancing, and it is kind of like this whole magical experience for the kids when they go in there, because but they aren't, the animals aren't in the wrong positions, like the bear that's dancing is standing up dancing, but
it's anatomically,
it looks like when a bear stands up. The moose that's dancing, his legs are going kind of crazy, like all of us have seen as a moose runs away. If you're from Alaska, you've seen a moose. And as much as, yes, they're majestic creatures, they are kind of goofy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how exciting for you to be able to study with him.
Yes,
I mean, that's
a wonderful opportunity. Yeah.
Well, and Jan mentioned to me that later on in life, she got the opportunity to go to Paris and see, got an opportunity. You went to Europe, and you just so happened to walk into a museum in Amsterdam, and here were those same Van Gogh paintings, right?
Yes, I saw the same paintings, and I did a little research and discovered, yes, they were on exhibit back then in St. Louis, and so it was the exact same paintings. So it was just really cool that it went full circle, and I got to see them again.
Yeah. Well, and she and I talked about that, she was pretty quiet, pretty shy, very shy. And, but she loves painting. That's your way you communicate.
That's my language. Yeah. That's how I was as a young girl. When I would start doing drawings and paintings, I was surprised at reaction and helped me connect with other people. And so as I grew older, I realized how important it was for me to connect with others. And I became more and more fascinated with other people, and less scared of saying the wrong thing or not knowing what to say. But so it was kind of, my art helped me with that. And it continues to do that. I create my paintings. I mean, I love to paint, but the biggest joy in my life is when one of my collectors, and I call them my Ravenistas, when one of my collectors tells me that my painting gives them joy on their wall, that they see it and gives, that to me is what makes me want to paint more. That's a connection that I just can't describe. Yeah.
Right. It's interesting. Jan is one of the few artists that I have talked to that was willing to talk, that I've approached, that was willing to come on this program. And I think,
Yeah, that's reason. I mean, that's one reason I agreed to do it, because I really want to hear from other artists. I mean, when I see a piece of artwork I like, I often will try to talk to the artist about what motivated and what did it, because that just, it makes it more exciting for the viewer, you know. And I know artists have a hard time communicating about it, but I encourage them to talk more about it. And, you know, everyone is an artist inside them, and some of them have wanted to draw and haven't, but they want to talk to you about what your experience is, because that encourages them to try it. So yeah, I guess that's one reason I'm excited about your show and the opportunity to talk, is just to
thank you. Well, you know, this show is, we call it Grit and Grins. And the reason why we call it Grit and Grins is because I really feel like people in Alaska have, we have a tenacity that we can't really put our finger on, in a weird kind of twisted sense of humor. You know, I think that she wrote in her little thing that when her collectors, these revenistas, tell her painting gives them joy, that's the fuel that makes her want to go back to her easel and paint wildly. And of course, those of you that know me know that, you know, wild laughter is what we talk about in when people get into our photo booths, because it's uninhibited. You know, when a lot of times they'll pull that curtain across and you'll just hear this laughter just spill out, you know, and just craziness. And it's so much fun. I feel that same way. Like, I brought in this little box and made these people just become goofballs, which is fabulous. But she's starting to paint now on larger paintings and, you know, like larger canvases. And you were telling me that one of the reasons that you did that is because you went to an exhibit. Was that when you were in Paris, when you were in Europe, you went to that exhibit?
Yes. And I went,
yeah. I've got my notes over here. I'm grabbing.
Saw an exhibit.
Paul Cezanne. Is it Paul Cezanne?
Paul Cezanne would do smaller landscapes, but he would use, I was familiar with his paintings, but seeing them up close, the originals, the intensity of the color was so amazing, and the bright orange was such a surprise in his paintings. And you're not as aware of it, but when you see the originals, you see how it makes the greens come alive. And when I saw that, it really made me want to use more orange paint. And I start my paintings now with a big swash of orange paint that gets me going and gets me painting loosely and wildly. And another exhibit that I really enjoyed was the exhibit of Monet's paintings. And Claude Monet was, I mean, he really inspires me. He painted regular sized landscapes for quite a while. And as he got older, his eyes started failing him. I think he was probably getting cataracts back then. And he couldn't see the details. And he was getting so frustrated. And he went to his doctor, and his doctor informed him that he was going to have to rest his eyes and not paint for a while. Take a year off, he said to Claude Monet. And this was, you know, that's not what you say to an artist. And he went home and thought about it. And he decided to do something totally opposite of resting. He built a big studio, a huge studio, and a huge easel to hold these monstrous canvases, because he figured if he could paint huge, he could see it. So he would roll these easels out to his lily gardens. He had gardens, ponds, lily ponds, and flowers, and gorgeous gardens. And he would roll these huge, monstrous canvases out and paint during the day and take them back into the studio to protect him. And so when he was getting older, he told the officials in France, he said, I'll donate all these paintings, the ones that haven't sold, to the state if you'll build me a museum. And so they did. They built him, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but l'orangerie. It's like orangerie. And if you go in there, you can go in, and there's 2 different rooms with paintings on all sides. So there's 4 paintings on each wall. You're surrounded by his lily ponds. And it's interesting because elsewhere in the museum, there's people talking and it's murmuring. But when you walk in, it's very quiet. People will sit on the bench and you just sit there and you feel like you're floating, like you're immersed in his gardens, and it's just beautiful. So that really made an impression on me, how large paintings can really have an effect on you. And it made me want to paint large too. I don't paint as large as he does, but I do.
Yeah. Although she did tell me that in her house, the largest room is her studio, and her husband and Paul's and her are squished in this other part of the house, but the big space is your studio, right? Yeah, yeah. And she paints on Mondays, so Mondays are her day that she immerses herself in her
every morning.
in the morning. Yeah, yeah. So we always ask people who's your grit giver and who's your grin giver? Who?
Well, my first grit, I'd have to say, my first grit givers, as you call them, is Jesus is my rock. He's my stability. He helps me get through the tough things, the hard things, and he's just changed my life. He's changed me. I'm a different person than before I knew Jesus. Mm-hmm. And my other grit giver is my husband. He's an encourager. He supports me and it gives me good ideas and feedback on my paintings. Even though he's not a painter, he's very sensitive to color and paintings and composition. And so,
but he's in advertising, so he, even though he paints pictures with words for people,
yes, he's a writer.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. So that's it's still an artistic form. So you guys are artsy fartsy, whether you want to be or not, right?
Artsy, yeah. And I love to write too. I'm learning to write, and he's helping me with that because that's my hobby now. I consider it. I just play. We write poetry. We read poetry. It's fun.
Oh, fun. So your grin giver, who makes you laugh?
Well,
who has always brought that to you?
I get my husband again. He's a jokester. He'll make me laugh. That's one reason I consented to go out with him in the very beginning, is he made me laugh. I said, okay, all right. And also my grandchildren, of course, they make me smile. I do a lot. When I'm not down in Florida visiting them, then I'm on FaceTime visiting them, and we laugh and have a great time on FaceTime. And but then friends and family, I love. My favorite thing, I think, is with my friends is walking and talking, going on walks and just one-on-one sharing each other's lives, encouraging each other, and learning different perspectives. I'm fascinated by people who think things totally different than I do, and I just that to me is interesting. I mean, politically and whatever. I don't want to get into politics, but we need to stay interested in each other. We need to be open to radically different ideas and go, well, really, why do you think that? That's interesting. You don't have to agree. But
I agree with that. I mean, that's one of my fears right now is we're getting to the point where we think we only can hang out with our own tribe. And what makes us work is that we're all kind of different thinking, and we bring different things to the table. And you had mentioned Jan moved down to Colorado for a while. She went to school down at the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design in Denver, and she was there and she learned a lot while she was there. But she kind of felt the same way that I did when I was in the lower 48, which I just couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I was recently in the lower 48 and kind of the same thing, and that is, we are the quintessential what America used to be, which is this weird melting pot of everybody. And, from a political perspective, from a social perspective, people have always, when I talk to them about Alaska, they're always surprised that we're so, we're conservative, but yet we're socially very liberal. We were one of the first states to legalize marijuana. And we were I remember in the 60s living here, and very open-minded about interracial marriages, which at the time were not something that was accepted in other places. And so Alaska's always been kind of funny that way, just we don't really care.
Like you said, we're very accepting of other people and other ideas. And yeah.
As long as there's certain things that I'll ask you later, but there's certain things that, well, I'll ask you, what's your favorite fish?
My favorite fish, salmon.
Salmon. Okay. So in Alaska, if you don't like fish, it's kind of like if you don't have a dog. Do you have a dog?
I've had many dogs. I don't have one right now. I miss it terribly.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, we're like, you don't have a dog and you don't like fish. Why do you live here?
That's great.
And not that everybody has a dog, but most people do, or they've had one, or and if you don't like fish, people think it's kind of weird. So why do you live here if you don't like fish? And it's kind of like you have to defend it. You have to. So, or you wear weird clothes when it's cold. Well, yeah, because I want to stay warm. I really don't care what I look like,
Priorities.
Priorities, exactly. Well, she already told me she doesn't watch reality TV, and so we don't have to go down that thing. But that's one of the things that a lot of people we get asked as Alaskan, we get asked weird questions, and she has a similar story to a lot of people as to why the weird stuff that people think about Alaska. So I'm going to let you share your weird thing that somebody was like, "Are you kidding me?" So.
Yeah, I was trying to purchase something on the phone, and I had the item, and I was telling her my shipping address, and she said, "Well, we can't ship it to you." And I said, "Why is that?" She goes, "Well, you're in a foreign country. You're not part of the United States." And I went, "No, we're part of the United States." And
1959. Hello. Yeah.
And she said, "No, I'm sorry, we just can't do it." And I said, "Well, would you please speak to your supervisor?" And so she did. She came back and she said, "Yes, we'll ship this right away." And she was so embarrassed. I felt badly for her, but oh my goodness, we need to let people know that Alaska is not a small little place down south of Mexico. We're on the maps. That's where they show us. We're way out.
I know. Well, Jan mentioned her daughter is a teacher in Florida, and I love your little.
Oh, I told her, I said, you have to make sure every single child knows where Alaska is. And I gave her a map that shows Alaska over the United States to kind of show the size of it. And it's really surprising. And she made sure that she does that. In fact, her sister told her that you'll get extra marks against you if you don't go to Capitol and the
Alaskan I don't know what you would call that, if you don't get it right, teacher's gonna
yes, you can get a whole lot.
And she was raised in Alaska, so she knows too, right? Yeah. So Jan has got a real love of bears, and all of I do too. And so I always ask everybody about their Alaska story, and she has a bear story to share with you it's just fun to hear her perspective also from an artist. So yeah. And you guys can see, I don't know if you can see, I know you can see her polar bear painting right behind her other way. Yeah, there you go. Whoops.
Backwards.
I know it's backwards to what you think. There it is. Yeah.
There we
So
go.
tell us this bear story, because it's fun.
Okay.
Well, I guess. It's not really fun, but
at the time it was, it's fun to talk about it, how it's at.
Yeah.
My husband and I are out in the wilderness, and there's he spotted at first a large grizzly bear that didn't see us, but was walking toward us and getting rather close. And he was huge. I mean, he was this gorgeous big grizzly. And it was really fascinating to me because it was the first time I'd been out in the wild to see one bear face to face like this without bars in a museum or anything, And what it did to my stomach was amazing. I mean, I was terrified. It's a palpable feeling. I don't know how to describe it. It's just something. It's in your gut that's just fear. And we noticed our dog was kind of far away from us. And so he was trying to call our dog to us to get him closer to us. And the dog, in rare, as he always did, would ignore us. And so my husband lost his temper, and he starts waving his arms and yelling at this dog. And I'm just sort of transfixed watching this grizzly. And the bear stood up, saw my husband, heard him. And the look of fear on that bear's face was the same thing I was feeling in my stomach. And it was a sense of, wow, that he would be afraid of us. I mean, I know that I've read that they are, but experiencing it was totally amazing. And it was just a kinship. It was just something I learned at that moment that really meant a lot to me. And it's probably one reason why I do so many paintings of bears facing me in my paintings. If you go on my website, you'll see a lot of bears, a lot of paintings of bears, and they seem like I'm doing it over and over again because it just fascinates me. Looking, I don't know if we're looking at fear, we're looking at each other. There's just a learning from each other. I think bears teach us how to be wild, and just interests me. So
yeah, it is. When you make that connection and you see that emotion that they're feeling. I mean, I've only had really a couple of experiences with bears, and one of them I was running the other direction, so I can't say I was looking at it. But yeah, that feeling that we're all here together, and how do we coexist?
Yeah.
And you being able to capture them in your paintings, the actual see the expression, because when I look at your website and I haven't seen one of your paintings close up, but I can see just in the pictures that you have them on your website, you can see those expression. You can see the expression coming through their face. It isn't just a shape, you can see their expression. So one of the things that she talks about is, Jan talked to me about is, kind of coming to terms with being able to paint for, being able to paint for your love of painting. And this is what you do, you're a painter. She went through a period, obvious, like a lot of artists do, where either they decide, I got to pay my bills, I'm going to go be a teacher. Or in her case, she had studied at the school in Denver, you had studied graphic design. And so she came back to Alaska, and she worked for the University of Alaska as their creative director, worked her way up as their creative director. And she became, they actually recognized her, which, guys, this doesn't happen very often, but the University of Alaska gave her emeritus status. And that's a big ass deal, girlfriend.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was really touched.
That is so
I love the university. I spent a lot of time, and I just love the people, love the energy of the new students coming on campus, and just the sense of learning. And we live in a special place here in Fairbanks.
Yeah, so that I worked for the university as well. I wasn't as lucky as she was to work in that kind of a department, but I got an opportunity to see lots of different parts of the university, and just knowing that so you were there for 30 years. Yeah. 30 years of you influencing the imagery that is going out to represent this university, which I mean, those of you that are out there that even have kids that are looking at different universities, this is a whole different experience. It isn't for everybody. It isn't for the light of heart, but you know what? Or faint of heart. It's for kids that really like us, they're adventurers. They want to come, they want to do something different. So that's pretty amazing. And I know one of the images that I get to see every week is your painting of Denali at Denali State Bank.
Oh, oh, that's a fun story.
So tell us about that. So Denali State Bank is the bank I bank at, and they have a new, very modern logo, but there's an image of Denali, and Denali has a very distinctive shape, and it's just how gorgeous on the silly ATM machine, but it's gorgeous,
Yeah, it's very kind. It's a fun story. I had posted that painting. I'd been working on this painting of Denali for a long time, and then it wasn't working. And finally, I figured it out, and I added a raven to it, and it sort of captures my feeling of being in the park. And when I drive into the park, I'm scared of heights. So that road going in close to Denali just terrifies me. But I remember painting that little raven in there, thinking, wow, wouldn't it be cool to be able to fly like a raven and not be afraid of these heights and be able to go right into the park? Anyhow, that was my thought. But I put the painting, I liked how it turned out, and I put it up on Facebook. And I got a call from the marketing director there at Denali Bank and said, we really like your painting, and we want to use it on our calendar. And they'd only used photographs up to that point. This is going to be the first painting. And so they did. They put it on there, and it was very nice. They were very supportive. They gave out calendars, and I was there one night signing. It was a lot of fun. Hanging out prints of your work. It's a blast.
Yeah.
And then they came back to me and said they want to use it on their website, and they want to use it on the ATM machine. And so I was really honored with that. That was great. And so then I get a call in the middle of winter, and finally it takes forever to get this kind of thing done, right? The ATM machine. And it was all ready to go, and they wanted to do a photo of me with, in front of the painting. You've seen these photos in the paintings, these grip and grin photos, and you stand in front of the painting and, you smile. And I told her, I said, let's do something different. Let's just have fun. And she said, okay, what do you got? What are you suggesting? And I said, well, I'm not sure, but I'm going to bring my brush, and we're just going to pretend like I'm painting it there. We'll be silly. And she said, okay, come. So of course it's 25 below zero, the day that we had arranged. And and so we go there, and she got this was Victoria with the marketing director, and she got a photographer, and we're out there, and I realized the ATM machine's so high, so I said, well, we're going to need a step stool, so we got a step stool out there, and people are driving by while we're doing this.
At 25 below, right?
25 below. And here I am. It's really cold, and the photographer, everybody's having a good time. We're laughing so hard we can hardly. And she said, no, stand on one foot. It looks better. So we're doing this. And so I ended up with the photo standing on one foot with my, leaning over, painting the thing. And people were yelling at us driving by. They thought it was hysterical. So we put it up on Facebook, and it was just, it was just how to have fun with something that could have been pretty,
Yeah. It's great. Well, one of the things that we're almost done here, but one of the things that you said to me right from the get-go, she decided to move back here. She came back. They weren't sure if it was going to work out. When she left the university, here she is, she's going to paint full time. And she talks about, painting wildly, and not to focus on the what if, and to focus on, not being fearful about what people think of you. And I think that's one thing in Alaska. It's easy in this world right now that we live in, where we're all connected and we see all these other people. And I know myself, sometimes I have to reach down and say, you're Alaskan. Okay. Just stop worrying about these people in these other places. Seriously, they're not going to impact your life. And if they do, so what? And so that kind of that tenacity. So one of the things that we talked about is, where's a place you would like to go that you haven't gone in Alaska? And I know the answer to that, but if you could, she said Southeast, which a lot of people that live in the interior say, but have you seen a place in Southeast that just embodies to you, like, oh, I wish I could just, grab a drink. I don't know who you would go with, sit there and just kind of suck it all in.
Oh,
who would that person be?
Who would that person be?
Yeah.
Well, it'd be two different kind of trips. I could take a trip with my husband. We have a blast together. We love to be very spontaneous, and just go somewhere and then just see what's there, and then kind of ad lib. We don't go with an agenda. Or I also I have several friends that are also artists, and I love to go paint with other artists. And so that's fun too. Go find a spot and go paint.
With wine or not?
I can't drink anymore. I'm kind of allergic to it, and it just I just don't. Yeah, so I don't.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a bummer, isn't it?
No, it's not a bummer. No, I don't miss it. I do great.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Well, this is kind of the part where I kind of ask some silly questions. So,
okay. These are.
So what do you think is when we're talking about daring to laugh, at adversity, what do you think is your kind of like your secret sauce?
My daring to laugh. Oh, that's a good question. I like that. I just love to laugh. I mean, I love to connect with people. I love to ask people questions about themselves and learn something. I mean, I don't think that fits what you mean, but yeah, I just find other people, and it's funny because I was so shy when I was real young, and I was so afraid. I feel like everybody else knew what to say, and I didn't have a script. And as I got older and I've learned, and now I know that ask people about themselves, and I'm just fascinated by what I learn, and get inspired by other people. I get energized by their ideas and their experiences. Yeah.
So when you laugh really hard, are you the snorter, the cackler, the gasp for air, or what's the other one? The squeaker.
I think I'm probably the snorter.
Are you the snorter? Are you the one that every once in a while throws in the snort?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And of course that always makes everybody laugh even harder.
And you gotta laugh at yourself. If you don't laugh at yourself, you miss a lot of humor in life, So.
Exactly. It's like I had this little thing. It's not on my computer anymore, so I can't quote. But basically, it says, I've learned to laugh at myself, and we have so much fun, and we do it, and we laugh, and we laugh, and we laugh.
Oh, wow. I like that.
This has been so much fun. I am so glad that I got to know you better, and I can't wait to share your website with everybody. And I hope that some of you that are out there will take a minute to look and see if there's something that's going to just have a perfect place on your wall, and you'll reach out to Jan, and you'll connect with her and purchase one of her, become one of her, say it for me, Ravenistas.
Ravenistas, or if you want to just hear from me monthly, I send out an email every month on studio. I call it a studio note. So on my website, you can sign up and just hear about my exploits or my failures.
Ramblings.
My ramblings. There we go.
Well, I think everybody should do that. I know I'm gonna take a peek, and art is my thing that I somehow can justify any amount of money on art. Even when I was so broke when I was in college, I had beautiful art, and I love how so many of our Alaskan artists are able to capture just the essence of what this place is, which is magical. So thank you so much. Have an amazing afternoon, and everybody make sure you check out her website below, and thanks for joining us today. We'll talk to you soon.
Please join. I want to hear your story.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.